I think a lot of people are now assessing, the aftermath of all this. And I wanted to pose this question to both you, Liz, and Jennifer, but like, moving forward from this, was there anything in there, that you looked at it and you said, wow, that's a name that I didn't think of. That's it happened the same way to me, because a lot of people are saying, well, what about accountability? Maybe the release of this information, someone else will come forward and say, corroborate one of the accounts in here that they didn't know about before. Was there anything in here that you said, now I can take action? Now I see something that that I didn't know before. One of these names. Is there anything like that?
For me, there wasn't.
Yeah.
And I think that what we're really focusing on is what the names are, whose name was released in this document release. And what we're not focusing on is that sex trafficking is a crime. These are
Yeah.
crimes that need to be pursued. And these are people that, need to be questioned as to whether or not they have any knowledge of these crimes, any involvement in these crimes. And that is a point that's really being lost in the media. We're talking about the celebrities and the politicians and the public people that are being named, but what are we doing about these names? I think that it's also important to stress that just because someone has been named in these documents doesn't mean that they've necessarily been involved in any wrongdoing, but I feel like they definitely deserve to be questioned to find that out.
Yeah, and Jennifer, I'll throw that to you too. I mean, a lot of people want to know, what's the legal impact of all this moving forward?
Unfortunately, in terms of criminal prosecution, there's limited remedies available. What can you really do given that many times the statute of limitations have run on these kinds of claims, which is one reason why we turn to civil remedies. And that's something, I've been working on as the chair of something called Child US Advocacy, which is trying to reform these civil statute of limitations so that people do have some measure of remedy, because there is very little generally you can do given the age of these claims. They're so long ago.
And talking about accountability, obviously these documents are littered with so much information about Ghislaine Maxwell. I know you're limited in what you can say, but I know that you filed a lawsuit only a couple of months ago against Ghislaine Maxwell under the New York Adult Survivors Act. It gave people a 1-year window to file a lawsuit for sexual assault claims that would otherwise have been time barred. So I know you can't talk about the specifics of the suit, but what can you tell us about it?
I think that the Adult Survivors Act is a really important piece of legislation. I think that it's important for people to understand that trauma disclosure is not a linear process. It can take a victim years, even decades, to kind of put together what their experience was and to be able to speak about it. And so I think that, in our legal system, we bar people from being able to pursue litigation through statutes of limitations that are really, you know, arbitrary, I guess, in my mind. The crime was committed. So, if you didn't report it in 5 years or 10 years or whatever the statute of limitations is for your particular case, does that mean that it didn't happen? Does that mean that you don't deserve to be made whole? I don't think so. So I think that, New York is one of the states that has really led the way, both with the Child Victims Act and the Adult Survivors Act, in giving survivors a look back period. I think it's unfortunate that the look back period was only open for a year. I think that we need to change legislation so that statutes of limitation are more akin to, these kinds of disclosures. But I think that it's a step in the right direction.
This case is emblematic of what can happen when you have the reform of the statute of limitations, because she does have a remedy. And we are continuing to work on statute of limitations in New York and other states to try to make sure that there is a remedy available, because otherwise there's no accountability. Otherwise, what often I see so many times, unfortunately, is a lot of depression and anger because there's no way to move forward.
You had also told me, and it's my understanding, that you might be going after the FBI. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are understanding that correctly. We have submitted what's called a notice of claim, which is a statutory prerequisite to bringing a claim against a federal agency like the FBI. And we will be filing a lawsuit in the near future against the FBI to find out why, when Maria Farmer, one of the victims, one of our clients, when she reported Epstein and Maxwell and others in 1996, the FBI did nothing. And then why in 2006, when she reported again, they did nothing. And why was another of our clients trafficked at the very time that Epstein was supposedly being investigated in Florida, yet she was trafficked in New York and at his little island. How could this happen under the FBI's nose?
Do you have a theory?
We have lots of theories, but we really love to be able to get the information to understand what really happened here. Did they just not care about these young girls? Was there some kind of, this is just an allegation, confidential relationship with Epstein, so the government knew what he was doing and allowed it because he was serving some function for the government? We just don't know. And it's really hard to know without a litigation, without having the facts, getting to the bottom of what really happened.
And for anybody who needed a crash course in, litigation, clearly seeing this litigation between Maxwell and Jeffrey, you see how much information can actually come up. Liz, I want to talk to you in a minute about the work that you're doing, because I think it's incredible and I want people to know about it. Before we do, as we're talking about accountability and the impact of these documents, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing what the traumatic experience of these documents being released can be for people. In terms of what you're hoping for, do you hope that the people who are mentioned, that they face tough questions, if not legal repercussions, that they face tough questions by people in the media or people who are associated with them? Do you hope that starts a different conversation from the release of these documents?
Absolutely. I think that it's important when we're hearing these names, it's what is the implication going to be on these people? Whether it's legal, whether it's professional, are we going to continue to support these people? Are we going to allow this to continue to happen? And I think that, we are looking at a case where there are hundreds of victims. This is a crime that has hundreds and hundreds of victims. Yet there's only one person that's been held accountable, and that one person is a woman. Now, please don't get me wrong, Ghislaine Maxwell absolutely deserved to be held accountable, but the sex trafficking ring had to have operated with other people. Where is the accountability for the other people? Where is the accountability for the men that we were trafficked to? Where is the accountability to the government who knew that this was happening for decades? Where's the accountability? Why has this just been a sensational media story and there's been no accountability? This is a crime. Human trafficking is a crime, and we need to find out what happened and how these people are involved.
And are there any efforts being made on your behalf to get those answers from these people?
One thing that we're doing is filing and pursuing the FBI, the claims against the FBI.
That's fair.
And Liz is an important part of that as well.
So, Liz, I wanted to talk to you now about really something incredible, because what happened to you is horrific, and it could cripple someone's life. And I've covered these kinds of cases before. You have actually managed to take something so horrible and turn it into a positive where you're helping people. Can you explain what you do?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to say that this does cripple your life, and this did really impede my life for quite a long time. Right now, I am working in anti-trafficking work. I'm working for a legal nonprofit, and I really feel very strongly about doing this work because nobody understood what happened to me. For decades and decades, people were looking at the outer symptoms of trauma that I was exhibiting: the depression, the anxiety, the post-traumatic stress disorder, the ways that trauma ripples through women's lives might not look like what you would think it looked in a textbook. And I think that part of the work that I'm doing is trying to educate the public, trying to make people understand how to be more trauma informed when they're looking at things like this, and to understand, what the implications of someone being trafficked are. And I think that for me, it was a really, really long road. Um, but I knew that I was stronger than what happened to me. And it's really important for me to kind of help others who are on the same journey that I was on for a long time, and to effectuate policy change in any way that I'm able to.
Yeah, I
Liz
mean
is
that.
such a beautiful role model for others. And one of the things I'm so proud of Liz about is stepping forward and showing that you can step forward, you can move forward, you can admit what happened to you, which is something that we find so difficult. So many people have struggled with that.
Yeah, and again, it's remarkable because you're able to help other people, and even like just talking right now about what they're going through, and having people understand, that this document release, and you said it so well before, because I always was had to explain it. This is not the Epstein list. This is not like, oh, we're going to get an understanding of everybody that committed this crime and was part of this sex trafficking. It's been sensationalized. So bringing it back down to reality, not only from those documents, but also bring it down to reality for how this is affecting people is so important for, I think, everyone to know. And I appreciate you saying that. I go back to this, and I think about the list, and I think about all the documents. It, there are right now, I believe, and Jennifer, you can correct me, there are, I believe, two people who are asking the judge not to be identified. It's not entirely clear who these people are. But that is the next step to sort of getting a little bit more information. What do you think about that? They're trying to, by the way, just to be clear, these are Jane Does who are trying to make sure their identities are not revealed, because the judge did allow the identities of so many people to be revealed in these documents.
I understand one of them has alleged that she is in danger, in physical danger of violence, if her name is released. So I certainly understand those concerns. And is this going to be another? I mean, frankly, so far it has been a bit of, for someone who's worked in the field, like perhaps like you, who kind of knew what was going on, it has been a little bit of a much ado about nothing, in that there weren't that many revelations through these documents. So would there be more with these two? We just don't know. But I do appreciate Judge Preska's care, and to make sure that at least this young woman is protected.